Hi students. See, till yesterday we talked about plant vascular tissues. Okay, though there are two types of vascular tissues in plants, xylem and phloem. Xylem is responsible for the transportation of water and minerals, whereas phloem is responsible for the transportation of food. Xylem goes from root to the tip of the leaves, whereas phloem goes downward or upward also from the leaves, tip of the leaves to the other parts of the plant. Now, we know that xylem is responsible for the transportation of water and dissolved minerals. Okay, when I say dissolved mineral, means when we water plants in water and in the soil, there are some dissolved minerals which are necessary for the plant, for the growth of the plant, right? And the transportation of water and these dissolved minerals is done by the xylem tissues. So let's see how this happens. Okay. So basically, if you look at the plant, there are, see, these are the roots. These are the roots of the plants. And if you can see this tiny outgrowth, okay, these are hair-like structure which are grown on the roots, right? So in plants, there are root hairs. These are called root hair. So in plants, there are root hair, and these root hairs are present on the outside of the roots. Okay, the root tissues, the main root tissues. These are the main root tissues, and these are the outgrowth, which are known as root hair, and they are very thin in structure, and there are many. Okay, see, there are many such root hairs. So in plants, there are these root hair present on the outer cells of the root. All right. And this, now the question here is, why these root hair? Why can't we just do with this root only, main roots only? See, basically what happens when we water plants or when the soil that contains minerals, okay, they need to be transported in the plant, right? Now, there has to be more surface area for absorption. So, this root hair increase the surface area for the absorption. Just imagine, if there are no root hair, then these root hairs are not there, then what happens? Then only these main roots will have to work, and that would have lesser surface area for the absorption, and plant will not get enough minerals and water in sufficient time period. And that's why these roots have this hair-like structure that are called root hair. So basically what happens in transportation of water and minerals, the first thing is that in plants there are root hair present on the outer cells of the root. Okay, why these root hair? Because they increase the surface area of the root for the absorption of water and dissolved mineral salts. Okay, in water and in soil, there are these dissolved mineral salts which are necessary for the growth of the plant. Now, what happens is this water and dissolved mineral salts enter the plant through this thin root hair. Okay, let me show you this here. See, these are thin root hair here in this diagram. See, this is your water movement diagram from the root hair through the root tissues. So these are thin root hair. Water and dissolved mineral goes from here in this tissue, and then they will go in the vascular tissue, that is xylem. Okay, such these root hairs are present here. See, from here the water goes inside and then it will reach the upper part. All right, so basically what happens, water and dissolved mineral salts enter the plant through this thin root hair. Now this absorption of water and dissolved mineral happens by one process, and that process is called osmosis. So as I just told you that this is how the water and dissolved mineral enter the plant, but this entering of, or this movement, or this transportation, not transportation, movement. At this stage it is movement. So this movement of water and dissolved mineral salts of in plants, it happens with some system, with one process, and that process is called osmosis. So this absorption of water and dissolved mineral happens by a process called osmosis. Now let's understand this word osmosis. Okay, so what is osmosis basically? See, osmosis is the process of diffusion of water. Osmosis is the process of diffusion of water molecules. See, now we are studying science, so we are not supposed to use this simple language. We have to use scientific terminology, right? So, osmosis is the process of diffusion of water molecules across a semi-permeable membrane from a higher to lower concentration. Now we need to understand all the terminologies. So let's first understand. So the first word is diffusion. Osmosis is the process of diffusion. Right? Now what do we mean by diffusion? Diffusion means spreading of something very quickly. Okay? So it's a process of diffusion. But diffusion of what? Diffusion of water molecules. So when we water the plant, it spreads quickly into the root. Alright? But how? Across a semi-permeable membrane. Now what do we mean by semi-permeable membrane? See, don't try to remember it, like, don't try to learn it. Try to understand it. Semi means partial. Permeable means permission. Membrane means layer. Okay? So, semi-permeable membrane, it's a layer that allows only some kinds of molecule to pass through it by diffusion. So here, in case of plant, see, these are semi-permeable. The outer layer is the semi-permeable. If you look at this is semi-permeable layer. Okay? And this semi-permeable membrane allows only some kind of material, right? They don't allow all kind of material to go into the plants, right? And that's why this is semi-permeable membrane, or the outer covering of the root hair. They are semi-permeable. See, this outer covering, outer part through which the water enters inside. So that is semi-permeable membrane. All right. So what is semi-permeable membrane? It's a layer that allows only some kind of molecules to pass through it by diffusion. Now very important word, that is concentration. So what is concentration? See, when in water, when we add something, when we add some substance, okay, then water gets concentrated. That water gets concentrated. For example, I'll give you one example. See, if you take a glass of water and if you add sugar in it and if you keep on adding in it, then the water will get thick, right? So we can say that it is concentrated water. Okay? So it has higher concentration. This water has higher concentration. Now why it has higher concentration? Because there is some substance inside the water molecules, right? And in science, you should remember one thing, that water always moves from higher concentration to lower concentration. Means water always tries to move from the very thick material to the space or to the water level in which there is very less substance dissolved in it. We will see this, okay, in a later points. But for right now, you just need to understand these words: diffusion, spreading of something very quickly; semi-permeable membrane, a layer that allows only some kind of molecule. Semi means partial, permeable means permission. Okay, so it's a layer, it's a membrane that allows only some kind of molecule to pass through it But how? By diffusion. And concentration means the amount of substance contained in a liquid. Here in our case, in plant case, it is water. Alright? So now let's again read this osmosis. What is osmosis? Osmosis is the process of diffusion of water molecules across a semi-permeable membrane from a higher concentration to lower concentration. Alright? So this is how you need to understand the definition of what osmosis. Now, let's understand one more thing here. See, when we talk about plants, we need to understand how this osmosis happen. Okay, so basically we know now that what is a osmosis. Now let's understand how this osmosis happens exactly. All right, so how osmosis occur? See, water is absorbed by the root hair from the soil. So if we talk about this, see, water is absorbed here in the plant through this root hair. Then what happens is this water is absorbed by the root hair from the soil because all the water and minerals are in the soil. Okay, then the concentration of water molecules is greater outside the root hair. Okay, so if we just talk about this, see, here there is water and inside also there is water. All right, but the concentration of water here, that is outside the root, is greater than inside the root. Why so? Because outside there are dissolved mineral and salts in water. So the substance is added in the water that is outside the root. Now water tries to move where the concentration is lower, and water knows that inside there is no such substance. So let's go inside, and thus water goes inside because the concentration of water molecules is greater outside the hair than inside the root hair. All right, that is why water moves into the root. Water moves into the root hair through osmosis process. So we can say that the concentration of water molecules is greater outside the root hair than inside. So water moves into the root hair by osmosis. And then this water passes through the root tissues to the xylem in the root. And then once it is inside, then it reaches to the xylem and then it goes upward. All right, like this. See, once it enters here, it goes upward. All right, now we know that according to the gravitation rule, the water should come down. Then how come this is going upward? All right, so well, that we will see in our next lecture.